You may be wondering why I'm reviewing a movie that's 30 years old. Well, Nightwatch now has a sequel that's coming to Shudder called Nightwatch: Demons Are Forever. And since both will appear on the streamer, it seemed fitting to take a look at the original first. A law student starts working as a night watchman at the Department of Forensic Medicine in Copenhagen, and when a serial killer's victims start piling up at work, he becomes a suspect. This stars a very young Nikolaj Coster-Waldau, as well as Sofie Grabol and Kim Bodnia. Now, Coster-Waldau plays this law student Martin, who takes a night watch gig at the morgue to help pay for school. He's got a no-good friend named Jens, played by Bodnia, and through the course of the film, they play this game of dare that continually amps up the risks. At the same time, a serial killer is on the loose, and as more bodies come in and Martin begins to behave strangely, he becomes the prime suspect. So when I sat down to watch this, I had the sneaking suspicion that I had seen this before, but I'd never watched this Danish film. But as the story went along, more and more of it felt very familiar. That's when I looked it up on IMDb and discovered that I had seen this before, at least sort of. I watched the 1997 remake with Ewan McGregor, but luckily, since it'd been so long since I saw that version, this one, it retained all the mystery and intrigue, along with surprises. Both of the films are also written and directed by the same person, so the remake is unsurprisingly made for English-only speakers who don't like subtitles. Now, once I had that sorted out, I was fully on board with the mystery. There's a very dark premise to it. And not just because it features a serial killer who attacks women in heinous ways, but because there's a grittiness to the whole production, made all the more so because of Bodnia's character Jens. Now, this dude is uncomfortable and pretty sketchy. He's got a look to him that appears like he's sociopathic or maybe just utterly disturbed. Either way, though, he put me on edge. And then when he introduces the dare game to Martin, the behaviors that ensue, they're reckless and then begin to get messed up. They get into some precarious, even threatening situations. But what produced the heightened sense of dread was how unhinged Jens looked. I mean, his eyes are wild, but also a bit dead, creating this void within his soul that makes him capable of anything. Sofie Grabol also stars in this as Kalinka, who's Martin's girlfriend, and she brings a certain amount of level-headedness and sense to Martin. He's timid, awkward, even slow to act a lot of the time. So as Kalinka, she creates more dynamic and decisive action for the pair. Now, the film has a ton of foreboding atmosphere. Some of that comes about simply because of the unsettling location of the morgue, but then this is all compounded thanks to cordoned off rooms that are filled with unspeakable items. And don't think sci-fi or supernatural. This is a very grounded story. But because this is a morgue tied to a medical school, there are all sorts of disgusting and disturbing sights in random dark rooms. And then when all that's coupled with Martin's self-fulfilling jumpiness, the dread transfers through the screen from him to us. And it works wonderfully in setting a tone where we know and feel something is amiss, but we haven't been shown what it is. And I think what also helps to establish the initial discomfort is the old night watchman who shows Martin around his first night. This dude is tired, jaded, also though seriously affected by his time spent alone in the morgue. He's darkly funny, but in one of those ways that you don't know whether to chuckle or run. And he doesn't have a huge role, but for what he contributes, I thought it was gold. Now the camera angles and the music, they also combine to add a spookiness to the morgue. And then with the lighting, it then all builds a setting that just gets under your skin and makes you swear you saw shadowy figures roaming the halls. Now, for the mystery aspect of this, I appreciate that multiple misdirections are included to throw us off the trail and hopefully keep us guessing. I don't think the clues are so obscured that you won't guess before the reveal, but I had a lot of fun switching back and forth with who I thought was the villain. And the whodunit feature, it's effective, especially because the narrative introduces enough characters who could potentially be a suspect. There's also a lot of imagery the story employs to add to the doubt and confusion relating to Martin's mental stability. We see that he sees things, but did he really see them, or was his imagination just getting the better of him? The imagery, it's gross, even sometimes violent, but the raw nature, it fits perfectly with the theme of the whole thing, complementing each element as we go along. Now, I loved how well the movie maintained the suspense so that the hour and 47-minute runtime, it wasn't even felt. I was enthralled with the mystery, and then disturbed by how Martin wouldn't speak up when things began to point to him as the killer. Now, the movie's a lot of fun, especially when it places actions within locations that feel very off. These work to show an outwardly shared expression of fear or despair, but also create conflicting feelings simply because of what's transpiring and where it's all going down. So overall, Nightwatch, the original version, it is a thrilling and suspenseful ride that leans heavily on the fear and discomfort of its characters to place them in strenuous situations that create doubt as to their mental stability. The whodunit aspect of the mystery is clever, with several misdirections and false leads, complemented by an urgent and unsettled narrative that maximizes every minute with chills, intrigue, and dread. Nikolaj Coster-Waldau excels at crafting a sympathetic yet suspicious persona who carries us along the story with bated breath. There is sex, nudity, a ton of profanity, and a lot of violence. I give Nightwatch 4 out of 5 couches. So have you seen this one, or maybe the remake? Which one did you prefer? Now for me, this one is the winner, but I'd love to know your opinion in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.